I call Eugenie Sage, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Bishop was indeed trying too hard and waxing lyrical. And there is certainly a difference when government takes a policy issue and doesn't take the advice of the public sector. But here, this is a technical issue of tax law, and the strong advice of Inland Revenue and submitters was that this notion of greatest connection is too subjective and is going to cause confusion. So if he had read some of the submissions, and I would just like to quote from Ernst & Young, "We are not aware of that term being used in any relevant New Zealand revenue legislation, so there is not any existing or accepted understanding of how it should be interpreted and applied. It is therefore open to various interpretations, assessment approaches and subjectivity where the relevant party has other residential land. Alternatives which come to mind include considering connection based on relative values, relative net worth, days spent there, history, sentiment, or other connections with the specific location, region, or New Zealand as a whole compared with residential land in any other jurisdiction." When you've got that amount of potential for confusion, for subjectivity, and when you're dealing with tax law, it's not good law. We are supporting this because, as Mr Bennett said, something is better than nothing. But there is a great deal, and recognise the comments that New Zealand First made, but there is a need for a clear register of overseas land purchases. The government and the public have invested significantly in land online. It was described as a world first when we digitised paper land records and enabled the electronic filing of land titles and survey documents back in 2003. That came at substantial cost, 141 million, I think, and there was a substantial cost blowout. So when there has been that amount of public money invested in maintaining the land title database, and when, as other speakers have noted, it would take a minute or so of conveyance's time to file the necessary transactions, why can't we have good law which provides good, solid information so that we've got then the information to inform good policy making to control the overseas speculation in New Zealand property, which is driving up house prices. Instead, with this bill, the government, with this main home exemption, with the failure to take the good technical advice not only of Inland Revenue but also of submitters like Ernst & Young and others specialised who've got specialist advice in tax law administration, by failing to take that advice, we are not getting a good information base to drive good policy-making decisions. So that's one of our objections. The other one is the very wide regulation-making powers in the bill to make some other property transfers exempt from the information requirements if it's impractical or if it involves high compliance costs, and to make regulations around what are non-notifiable transactions. That potentially leads to further loss of transparency in the transactions which are noted. So, Mr Speaker, we will support this bill because it is a tiny step to having a register of land and house purchases and the extent to which overseas purchases are involved in that. But the Parliament should be making good law. The National Party and government should have taken the advice of those who know about the technical administration and not had things like this main home exemption. We will support it, but it has a number of defects, and I will suspect we will be back here remedying those. Thank you.
I call David Seymour, 5 minutes.
Mr Speaker, I rise on